Here we go. Welcome into College Football Now by Chat Sports. You got Harrison Graham and Will Scott tonight as the College Football Playoff Committee is set to unveil their latest top 25 rankings here in about 30 minutes or so. We got producer Sam Brown riding shotgun tonight as well on the ones and twos, making us look and sound good. Will, welcome back. Big week. We'll see what happens tonight as the committee's got a couple of key decisions to make, I think.
Yeah, we're coming down the stretch here, Harry, kind of the final turn of the season. You got 1 week left in the regular season, and then for some of these contenders, most of them are going to be in a conference championship game. They have 2 more games left to make their case. But I think the big question tonight, and we'll talk about this throughout the night, who is going to be number 5? Is it going to be LSU or is it going to be USC? USC had that impressive come-from-behind win over UCLA in the Rose Bowl. Meanwhile, LSU played UAB. So is the committee going to penalize their scheduling? We'll see. It is worth noting that that's just pretty much how the entire SEC does things late in the year.
Well, and I think the committee should send a message to the SEC as a whole, not just LSU specifically. They haven't in the past. We'll see if they do tonight. Shout out your favorite college football team. Get in the chat. Let us know where you guys are watching from. I'm going to turn – sub-only chat is still on. It's still on, so I just turned it off. I was wondering why some comments weren't coming through. So shout out your favorite team. Let us know where you guys are tuning in from. We got William saying Bama is better than the choke artist TCU. How can you call TCU a choke artist when they've actually been the opposite?
They've won every game.
The one thing you can't say is that they're chokers. How good are they? We don't know, but they've been clutch as hell. They've won a bunch of close games. That's the opposite of choking.
They're down 8 points in the final couple minutes of that football
without
game.
Their top 3 offensive players.
And they win on that field goal. So props to TCU, and I feel like even though they're undefeated, they're kind of an underdog story right now, and I would love to see them get in the top 4 for the first time.
I'll be honest, I don't want to hear from Bama fans this year.
No,
like
frauds.
You've had your time year after year after year. You'll probably be back in it next year. Like, I don't want Bama fans bitching about anything. Like, it's an exhausting thing. Tony Fuentes says TCU, go Blue Michigan, rolling with the Wolverines. Jarvis Long says Ohio State. Go Bucks from Forest Bro. Shelley says LSU. Florida State from Gaming Wizard. Georgia Bulldogs says Georgia. Let's see. Bro, that was an amazing finish for It was exhilarating. It was exhilarating.
How nervous were you, Graham?
Oh, very. I'll be honest. When TCU was down 28-20 and punted the ball away, I was like, we're probably done. I mean.
So I was at Scholmeyer Arena watching TCU volleyball during that kick, and the entire arena was just let out a deep sigh of relief when that went through the uprights. Man.
It was something. I'll never
you
forget
can certainly feel the energy around Fort Worth right now around this football team for sure.
White Wizard says go Irish. Ohio State from L2 Cloud. Go Tigers from Alec G. Notre Dame, some Super Luigi. Florida State from Jordan Jennings. Ohio State. Georgia Bulldogs says, I expect this to be number 1. Georgia will be number 1. I have no doubts about that tonight. Now, who should be number 2? We asked this question last week. Does it change? They all 3 of these teams had kind of similar outcomes, Will. I know Ohio State's final score says 43-30. Maryland had the ball down 6 in the final minute, and Ohio State got a defensive touchdown in desperation mode for Maryland. That was a 1-score game. Don't get it twisted. Michigan, game-winning kick. TCU, game-winning kick. So all 3 won close. I think the committee will hold chalk. I think it'll be the same top 4 in that order. Now, what do you guys think it should be? I do think it'll be Ohio State, though, again.
And I think it should be. I think Ohio State to Michigan at 3, TCU at 4. The loser of that Ohio State-Michigan game is probably out, especially if it's Michigan.
Yep.
But TCU, they know what they have to do. That's why you saw the emotion from that team on Saturday after they beat Baylor. If they lose to Baylor, they're probably out. They probably need to win the next 2 games, but if they win the next 2 games, they're in. They know what they need to do.
And we'll take a look at our college football map in a minute, but it's really simple at this point. Win the rest of your games. Don't leave it to chance. I mean, that's what it is. L2 Cloud says Ohio State. Tony Fuentes hanging out. He says TCU. David says Michigan. We got William saying Michigan. Michigan barely won at home. And, I think teams deserve credit, though, Will, when they don't play their best and they find a way to win. You know,
Yeah.
I think we nitpick wins too much with this whole process. Like, winning's hard, especially when you become one
On
of the
road.
when you become, well, even Michigan at home. Like, I know they didn't play great, but they found a way. They
Right.
found a way. They'll get their, like, the game this week is what matters, right? Like, if you beat Ohio State last week, doesn't matter that you barely beat Illinois. I mean, that's what it's going to come down to.
I agree.
So that's how it all works. Established Titles sponsoring tonight's episode of College Football Now, as we are live for the latest college football playoff rankings here on November 22nd. And hey, listen, you want to become a lord or a lady? Me and Will Scott, both lords these days. This is how you can do it. Established Titles is a fun and novel way to preserve the natural woodlands of Scotland while helping global reforestation efforts. You can see these beautiful trees on your screen. This project based on that historic Scottish custom where landowners are referred to as lairds or lords and ladies in English. Title packs give you at least 1 square foot of dedicated land with a unique plot number on a private estate in Eddleston, Scotland, and an official certificate with a crest. We plant a tree with every order and work with global charities One Tree Planted and Trees for the Future to support those reforestation efforts. You can officially include the title of Lord or Lady on your credit card, your plane tickets, your dating profiles, etc. And by the way, the first 200 people who purchase a title pack using our link will be effectively next to me and Will's plot of land within a few minutes of walking distance. Depending on how many of you want to become a Lord or a Lady, we could build our own chat sports kingdom. It makes for an amazing last-minute gift. Established Titles is running a massive holiday sale right now, Black Friday, all that good stuff, up to 80% off, and we're throwing you an extra 10% off when you go to establishedtitles.com/chat. That is establishedtitles.com/chat. Will Scott's dating game has taken a whole new level since he put Lord in his dating profile.
No question.
And, you get a lot more clicks, I hear, Will.
Oh, 100%. It's really been helping me out on Hinge. So you can add it to your dating profile, your credit card, whatever you want to do with it. But you're Lord Harrison Graham. I'm Lord William Scott. I'm going to pull up to Thanksgiving this weekend being Lord Will. So that's pretty cool.
Lord Willie. That's what they're calling you these days. Establishedtitles.com/chat, promo code chat for 10% off. All right, who's the better team? And really the question is who should be number 5 tonight? Because I think the top 4 is going to stay the same. Should it be LSU or USC? Who's better? Who should be ranked higher? Will, I know you've got your opinions in this because obviously you grew up and are a big LSU football fan. It's a tough call. I mean,
it's very tough.
We'll look at the resumes later on, but there's pros and cons to each of these teams' resumes right now and to the eye test.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at these two teams, LSU has probably had the more impressive resume up to this point.
Tougher schedule.
But in the latter part of the season, USC is going to have some opportunities, and we saw that last week. They beat a ranked UCLA team. Granted, give them credit. They came from behind to win that game.
Yep.
They'll play Notre Dame this weekend, and then they'll play in the Pac-12 championship game. So that's going to be a tough final stretch, and if they win all those games, it's going to be very tough for the committee to leave USC out, even if LSU does win the SEC championship. But LSU, they beat number 8 Alabama. They have some other impressive wins as well. Their 2 losses to Tennessee, to Florida State, both ranked teams.
Yep.
If I was voting, I would probably rank LSU ahead of USC right now, but that might change because LSU plays a very bad Texas A&M team this week.
So that doesn't help their resume.
It's hard to win on the road in the SEC, but USC plays Notre Dame, who is ranked. More of an opportunity there for the Trojans.
We'll get some shout-outs here, then I want to give a couple thoughts as well. Shelly says LSU. Wide receiver plug says USC. Tony says LSU. Go vote on the live poll. 66% say USC should be ranked number 5. USC hasn't played anybody. We can't throw out these loose statements, though. They just beat UCLA on the road in a ranked rivalry game. That's not nobody. They lost to ranked Utah on the road by 1 point.
Yeah.
Have they had a gauntlet? No, they haven't had a gauntlet. But to say they haven't played anybody sounds like a loose statement from an SEC fan. Like, I don't want to assume, but that's kind of what it feels like. Has LSU's schedule been tougher? No doubt about it.
Exactly. And
they've also lost an extra game.
LSU's schedule has been tougher up to this point.
But the loose statements of they haven't played anybody is just not true.
That, yes, but LSU has had the tougher schedule.
They have.
They've had the tougher schedule.
And if they beat Florida State, this wouldn't even be a debate. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where things get, like, for example,
Right.
if USC beats Notre Dame, that's a comparable non-conference game to LSU's game against Florida State.
That is very fair.
And if USC beats Notre Dame, I think at that point, the resume is close enough that they have one less loss. Now, here's going to be the question before we look at the college football playoff map. Let's say chalk holds. Let's actually go to the map now. I think this is a good transition here. Let's say the winner of Ohio State-Michigan also wins the Big Ten title game. That team is win. Let's just say it's Michigan, for example. They're in the college football playoff. Let's say TCU beats Iowa State this week, wins the Big 12 championship. Those are two lock teams. We know those two teams are in. Let's say Georgia beats Georgia Tech this week, but loses to LSU in the SEC title game. And let's say USC wins against Notre Dame and in the Pac-12 title. So the committee is going to have to choose 3 teams for 2 spots. TCU and the Big Ten champ, they will be in that scenario. Undefeated conference champs. I think Georgia, 12-1, and undefeated 12-0, a non-conference champ. We saw them get in that exact same scenario last year. They
got embarrassed by Bama in the SEC championship
and they still got in. So they would be in this scenario. So do you go with 2-loss SEC champ LSU or 1-loss Pac-12 champ USC? And basically, to me, Will, they have to debate 2 things. LSU beating the number 1 team in the country in the SEC title game versus USC winning 3 straight ranked opponents. What is stronger in the committee's eyes? That's what it's going to come down to. And I think you could argue both ways, to be completely honest. You go volume versus 1 game. That's what it's going to look like at the end of this thing. So I'll tell you what. I hope the committee gets put in this situation, Will, because they usually get bailed out by these scenarios, and they probably will again if it holds like it has in past years. But that could be the scenario we run into here in a couple of weeks.
I'll say this. The SEC champion has never been left out of the college football playoff. They are clearly the best conference year in and year out. And I have a hard time believing that they would keep LSU out after they won 11 of their last 12 games, after they beat number 1 Georgia, and after they won the SEC championship. I would expect them to put 2-loss LSU in over USC. However, who's going to be number 5 tonight? We'll find out in a second. But when you're talking about number 5 next week as well, I do expect that to be USC if both USC and LSU win this weekend.
Yeah, we'll see what happens tonight. I think if both win next week, USC would jump at that point, going into conference title week.
Unless LSU beats A&M by 50, which could very well happen.
Yeah, we'll see.
A&M sucks.
Subscribe to College Football or to Chat Sports for more college football coverage. We actually put out a college football coaching rumors video earlier. A lot of Lane Kiffin stuff going on. Deion Sanders, coaching hot boards. We have you covered. Recruiting, transfer portal. Our coverage is really about to ramp up bowl season, college football playoff. We go live every Tuesday for this show, leading up to the final one. We got this Tuesday night, next Tuesday, and then the following Sunday, the day after Championship Saturday, when we will unveil who the top 4 teams are. So hit that sub button. We're going to be your channel here on YouTube to get you caught up and have it all covered. So don't miss any of it here at Chat Sports. Go ahead and subscribe today. You guys see the clock. Shortly after that clock winds down, the College Football Playoff Committee will release their rankings to us, and we will unveil those to you. Let's talk Heisman Trophy, Will, because
Sure.
it's getting complicated, I think, because Hendon Hooker, great story. I think he should get rewarded with the trip to New York with the season he's put together, but I don't see a scenario where he can win it now. They're a 2-loss team. He's done for the year, torn ACL. We wish him the best in his recovery. I think he'll be, a day 2 draft pick, all that stuff. But I think you're really looking at 3 of these 4. I think Duggan's a distant 4th here, but if TC goes undefeated, I think he could at least get a trip to New York. CJ Stroud, Ohio State. Caleb Williams, USC, has really come on. And Blake Corum. If Corum plays, he's banged up. If he plays and has a big game in a win over CJ Stroud in Ohio State, he could very well pass CJ Stroud. So this thing's getting interesting, man. I don't know who's going to win it right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like the loser of that Ohio State-Michigan game
is probably
out. Not just of the playoff conversation, but also when you're talking about these Heisman candidates. So C.J. Stroud, I feel like, is the front runner right now. Do I feel like he deserves the reward?
I honestly don't.
I really don't. If I were voting today, I might give it to Caleb Williams. Now, granted, when you look, I've always been the guy that's like, this should not be a quarterback award. Blake Corum has had a fantastic year.
He has a strong argument.
When you look at his numbers compared to the last two running backs to win the Heisman, Mark Ingram and Derrick Henry, pretty similar numbers through 11 games.
Better in some cases.
Yeah, so if Blake Corum goes out, beats Ohio State, has a big game, then he is the clear front runner, even regardless of what Max Duggan and Caleb Williams do this weekend.
Yeah. Again, I think Duggan's a distant fourth. If they go undefeated and, he gets some help from some of these other guys losing, I think he has a chance, but it's definitely a distant one. I'm with you on the Stroud conversation, by the way. Let me ask you this, and I'll ask people in the chat. If you take C.J. Stroud out off Ohio State's team and whoever their backup is, I think it's Kyle McCord, if he starts, what's their record? They're 11-0 with Stroud. They're probably at least 9-2. I mean, probably 10-1 realistically. Maybe they lose to Penn State if you don't have Stroud. Maybe. You take Caleb Williams off USC with that god-awful defense. And I know Lincoln's a QB guru and he makes it work. But, first year over there, he's working. He doesn't have his guys in there yet. You take Caleb Williams off USC, I feel like they got 3 or 4 losses, man.
Agree.
And to me, Heisman is who helps their team out the most. You take that player away, how big of an impact does it have? I would say that impact is bigger for Caleb Williams. Go watch the UCLA game. They only won because he scored on almost every possession. I mean, that's really what it came down to. Dorian Thompson-Robinson had 6 touchdowns for UCLA, and UCLA still lost. So it's an interesting one. Renee says Caleb Williams. Promise says C.J. Stroud. Tony says C.J. Stroud. And this is not an anti-C.J. Stroud conversation. I just think we have to think next level with these things. We can't just be like, oh, they're undefeated and the stats look good and he's going to be the number 1 pick. That's not how I would vote for the Heisman.
Right. And, you bring up a good point because I think we talk about the same thing. We're talking about the most valuable player in the NFL. Now, the Heisman is probably the most outstanding player, maybe not most valuable, but value certainly holds a lot of weight there as well. But I'm with you. I feel like if producer Sam Brown was a quarterback, Ohio State would be in the college football playoff conversation here. That's just how much talent they have on that team. And I've seen his arm strength.
I was going to say, you've seen me throw a football, so you know that's the case.
I literally saw you throw a football 50 yards, dude. So I know you can air it out. But when I'm talking about the Heisman, again, I'm going to bring this up again. It's not a quarterback award.
Yes.
It tends to be a quarterback award, but I've loved it when they've given it to a guy like Devontae Smith or Derrick Henry or Mark Ingram or maybe a guy like Harold Perkins can be in the conversation next year.
The year Ndamukong Suh was a finalist, I thought he should have won it. I mean, honestly.
Tyrann Mathieu probably should have won it the year he was a finalist. I mean, we can go on and on about this typically being a QB award when it shouldn't be. But Blake Corum, I'm telling you, if he has a big game, he's not 100%. If he goes out and has it, that just adds to the significance of
playing
him.
hurt and carrying Michigan to a win.
If he can do that, I think he's the clear front runner.
Shout out your city. Let us know where you're watching from. And then we're going to get into our mock rankings here coming up in just a second. But we want to know where you guys are tuning in from. Shout out your city and let us know where you're tuning in from. Someone said Rattler looked good. I want to show Will Scott some love. He called it last week. If you tuned in last week, he called South Carolina over Tennessee. You guys clowned him. I didn't buy into it. He was right. I don't think he thought South Carolina was putting up 63 points.
I didn't think they were going to win the game by 25 points. But
you called it. You called it.
So I'll say this. Bet on chaos in November in college football. Bet on, what does John Rothstein say? This is March. Will Scott is saying, this is November. Bet on chaos in college football this month. It happens every time.
Richard says Memphis, Tallahassee from J-Rip, Dallas for Tony. We got Pete here in Murphy Village. Promise in Dothan, Alabama. Let's see. Pasadena from Rudy. Go USC. He says Monroe, Louisiana. Madison, Alabama from William. Fort Lauderdale is where Chris is watching. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Let's kind of sprint through some of the back end of these rankings here. Then we'll kind of focus on the top 10 here, Will. Put Coastal Carolina in the top 25. I know they didn't play this week. Virginia decided not to play. What's that? Yeah, these are our mock rankings. This is not the real deal. These are the rankings we put together. We're projecting what the CFP committee will do. Coastal at 25. I do think South Carolina at 7-4 with a win over Tennessee could sneak in there. Texas, a 4-loss team, could get back in there. Cincinnati at 22. Oregon State at 21. North Carolina, I think they tumble a good amount. I mean, Georgia Tech stinks. They blew a 17-0 lead in that one. Ole Miss at 19, another loss for Lane Kiffin's crew. Tulane at 18, I think they've got the inside track with UCF losing over the weekend to get the Group of 5 nomination in the New Year's Six. We'll see. Florida State keeps on winning, number 17. UCLA, I think they were 16 last week, close loss to USC. I think, they probably stay somewhere around that spot. Notre Dame jumps up to 15 in our mock rankings. Utah falls a couple spots after losing a close one at Oregon. Washington at 13. Kansas State at 12. They were the highest 3-loss team last week. I think that'll hold this week. And then Penn State at number 11. Any kind of thoughts, disagreements on any of those, Will?
Yeah, I think that's how it's gonna stack
up,
right? And the Coastal Carolina New Year's Six dream is still alive.
If they need to get ranked this week if they're going to have a chance.
They need to get ranked. They need here's what they need. They need either Tulane or Cincinnati to lose this weekend, and then
the
loser of that to beat the other one in the championship next week. That's what they need. So it's going to take a little bit of help. I think Penn State's a little bit too high here, but I do expect.
I'm projecting what the committee will do, and they've liked Penn State throughout this entire process.
I'm in a complete agreement with you. These mock rankings are not what Harry and I would do. It's what we think the committee's going to do. But I'm with you, Graham. I think Penn State's a little bit overrated by the committee.
Oregon gets a nice win over Utah. I think they'll be right around number 10 with the 2-loss team. Alabama at number 9. I do think, even though Clemson didn't play a great team, I think they jumped Bama, who played Austin Peay. I mean, come on, give me a break. At number 8, Tennessee. If there's any logic at all, Tennessee should stay ahead of Bama. They beat them head-to-head. They both have 2 losses. The resumes are similar. Tennessee,
in the AP poll, though, Alabama was ranked ahead of Tennessee.
Which is stupid.
I agree.
That doesn't make any sense. Clemson at number 7. I think they're the longest shot to make the CFP, but they're still alive. They need some help, certainly. North Carolina did not help their cause. That did not help their cause. They needed UNC to keep winning, but I do think Clemson will be in there at number 7. Before we get to our top 6 mock rankings, don't forget to subscribe. You see that clock here in 7-10 minutes or so. They usually dilly-dally, but the committee will release their top 25, and we will react. We're currently going through our mock top 25, but if you love college football, we have you covered this time of year with a lot of videos, news, rumors, coaching hot boards, recruiting. Also, NFL videos, NBA videos here on Chat Sports as well. Subscribe. Don't miss any of our coverage. We are your home for sports here on YouTube. All right, top 6. I think you're going to hate me, Will, but I do think LSU gets jumped by USC. That's 5 and 6. SC at 5, LSU at 6. I think the swap happens this week.
It's very possible. LSU did beat UAB, but it was UAB.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yep.
USC had probably their best win of the season against UCLA.
It wasn't easy. It was close.
It was not easy.
But it was a ranked win on the road against a rival.
Quote, on the road. But,
technically it counts as a road win.
Technically it counts as a road win over there in the Rose Bowl across town. But I'm with you. It's possible. If it doesn't happen this week, it might happen next week.
I'll tell the audience, I mocked this. Do you think it'll be this way, or do you think LSU holds at 5? Gut feeling.
I think LSU holds at 5.
Okay. We'll see.
No bias involved.
And then I don't think we really need to reveal. We could just kind of reveal all this. I think that it looks fancy. A little reveal here. Shout out producer Sam. I think the top 4 holds. I mean, nothing changed. No one drastically beat someone or whatever to really have them jump the other. So I think the top 4 holds, and I think all the eyeballs I think it's 2 things, actually. I think it's who's number 5, USC or LSU, and does Clemson get up to number 7? If they're still 9 or 10, it's like,
if they're 9 or 10,
they could be done. They could be done. So keep an eye on Clemson tonight as well. Who should be number 2? And then we're going to kind of compare USC and LSU a little bit here, Will. We got a few minutes. Who should be number 2? Type OSU for Ohio State, MICH for Michigan, or TCU. I think it will and probably should be Ohio State, especially with Notre Dame keep winning. That really helps the resume with a non-conference win like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be Ohio State at 2. We've talked about the last couple weeks. Man, could TCU jump Michigan? If it didn't happen in the last couple weeks, it's not going to happen this week.
The only thing they could say is, well, TCU did it on the road this week. Michigan was at home against Illinois, but the wins were so similar in terms of quality of opponent, the way they won. I don't think anything changes there.
Agree.
I don't think. Jacob says Ohio State. Richard says Ohio State. TCU overrated from Big Bag Smith. We got Mr. Pace saying Michigan. Georgia Bulldogs says TCU. Locker Room says Ohio State. Jacob says Ohio State. So we'll see. Someone says Washington should be top 12. Put some respect on Penix. I mean, I think I mocked them 13 based on what the committee has done. I think they should be ranked higher than Penn State.
Yeah.
I think Washington on a neutral field would beat Penn State.
100%.
So I don't disagree with you. I'm mocking
Washington has the more impressive best win.
Yeah, they beat Oregon on the road.
Yeah.
Penn State has not done anything near that. They've lost to Ohio State and Michigan. They're rewarding them for losing to two good teams.
And the only reason Penn State's ranked ahead of Washington is because in the committee's initial rankings, Washington was unranked and Penn State was top 15.
Which is a stupid process.
Should not. That's not how it should be.
Nope. Resume comparison time, Will. LSU USC, because that's the big talking point tonight. Who is number 5? Obviously, you break down a few things here. USC, better record, 10-1 versus 9-2. LSU, more top 25 wins. And by the way, the top 25 wins is based on our mock ranking, so that could potentially shift depending on what the committee's rankings are tonight. 2-1, though, in favor of LSU. Strength of schedule favors LSU pretty heavily here. 15th in the country compared to 58th in the country.
Which is why I believe LSU will be above USC.
That could be possible. Strength of record, very similar. No real gap there. Power 5 wins, though. 8 for USC, 6 for LSU. How much does the committee weigh that compared to, like, top 25 wins, for example? I mean, listen, like, we kind of brought this up the other day, right? Like, TCU beats Colorado in the non-con. Colorado's horrible. But when they scheduled that game 8 years ago, like, should TCU be penalized because Colorado stinks? I mean, that one should count for a tiny piece of something because they scheduled a P5 opponent. Michigan did not. Michigan did not schedule a Power 5 opponent in their non-conference. So I think those type of things have to be conversations this committee has. Do they? I don't know, because Will and I are not in that room. But you look at that resume comparison, who's the better team? Who should be number 5? LSU has some categorical advantages. USC has some. It's a close call. It's a very close call.
It's a toss-up. And in the AP poll, USC did jump LSU. So LSU remained at 6. USC jumped up 2 spots to number 5. I'm just basing my opinion on what we've seen from the committee in past years. They really value strength of schedule.
Yeah.
And they also value the SEC.
Yes.
So I do believe that when you combine those two things, LSU will remain ahead of USC, at least this week. Next week, it's a different conversation.
Chef says LSU. Tiberius says USC. Tony says LSU. Michael says USC. Vote on the live poll as well. 61% say USC. By the way, I do want to mention this. I think there's a good chance Notre Dame beats USC this week.
I think it's a very good chance.
So that could kind of take the controversy out of the conversation.
Teams in the country right now.
Yeah, the defense is rolling. Offense is improved. Marcus Freeman's doing a nice job there. Locker room says USC. LSU for now. Notre Dame wins. I could see it. USC's defense isn't very good, so even an average Notre Dame offense should be able to score some points. Clock is winding down. I'll get a few more shout-outs, and then we'll kind of reset here as we await to hear from the College Football Playoff Committee. Forrest says LSU. Jack says USC. LSU number 9. They're not going to be number 9. I don't know where that comes in.
He's saying Joe Burrow. She's shouting out Joe Burrow.
Oh, okay. All right. Me and Will are ready to rock. You guys ready? We're about to unveil the committee's college football playoff rankings here in the next few minutes. Welcome into College Football Now. Harrison Graham and Will Scott with you. We got producer Sam Brown and executive producer Brett Scott getting ready to go with all of the fancy graphics, so shout out to all of them as we await from the College Football Playoff Committee to hear what they are going to do tonight. We should hear from them in the next 4 or 5 minutes. In the meantime, shout out your favorite college football team, and we will give you guys a shout out as I
hit a little retweet here from our main account. Let's get some shout-outs going here. Who you rolling with? Who's your squad? Shout out your favorite team. We got Ohio State from the locker room. Longhorns are overrated from Tony. Pete Gorman says Georgia. Coastal Carolina from Jeremy.
Hey, go Shots.
Rank the shots. Me and Willer are saying rank the shots.
Baby.
Shelly says LSU. Randall says TCU. Miles says USC. The locker room, Ohio State. Michigan, go blue from Darius. Jimmy Cash saying LSU. Let's go with an X from Real Louisiana. Obviously an LSU fan. Joseph says USC. Georgia. Not seeing as many Georgia fans tonight. I guess they're just bored. They're like, we're number one again. We'll check it next week. Drew says Clemson. Jermel says LSU. Florida State from Robert. Roll Tide from Bama. Continue to shout out your favorite team. Who should be number 2? Will and I are in agreement that the top 4 almost certainly stays the same, with Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Michigan 3, and TCU 4. You holding with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, that should be how the top 4 stacks up again this week. And again, I've said for the past couple weeks, I feel like TCU should be ahead of Michigan. But if the committee has not switch them before they're not
nothing happened Saturday that would be like, we're going to randomly flip Michigan and Ohio State or something like that. That doesn't make sense. So I do think Ohio State will be 2. Trent says Ohio State. Darius says Ohio State. Eastern Michigan University. I love it, Jusho. Mr. Matt says USC. Michigan from Jack Frost. That's the top 4. Yeah, I think top 4 holds. The question tonight is who will be number 5. We'll talk about that in a second. But real quickly here, going through our mock rankings, Will, 15 through 11. I think Notre Dame gets in there at number 15.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Notre Dame higher.
They could jump Utah as well, who has 3 losses. They could be 14 or maybe even 13. We'll see. I think Kansas State will remain as the highest 3-loss team. That was true last week. They won pretty straightforward, so that should stay the same. The committee likes this Penn State team for some reason. I don't really get it, but they are at number 11 in our mock rankings. You get into the top 10 here, Will, and I think something to watch for is, does Clemson get ahead of Tennessee and Alabama? I don't know for sure. If they don't, that's more roadway to travel for Clemson. Now, certainly they'll be able to add a win over South Carolina, which
could be a top 25 opponent.
Which is a quality win.
Right.
And even though North Carolina lost, potentially a ranked win in the ACC championship, so those things will help, but it's just further ways to go for Clemson. I do think they have the toughest uphill battle for the team still alive in the college football playoff.
Yeah, if they're number 7, they have a legit shot to get into the playoff. Really all they would need is an LSU loss to Georgia and USC to lose one of their next 2 games, and then for them to win out, and I think they'd be in. But if they're behind Tennessee, if they're behind Alabama, they're probably done. But when you consider the brand name, though, I think they jump to 7.
Mock college football playoff rankings continue. Top 6, 5 and 6. That's the conversation tonight, Will, and I do think there's some significance to it with a couple weeks to go. Does USC, with their win over a ranked rival UCLA compared to LSU facing UAB, does that move the Trojans up? I believe it will. This is how I mocked it. Will disagrees. He thinks with LSU's strength of schedule and more top 25 wins that they will hold at 5, at least for this week. You did say if USC were to win next week over Notre Dame, that could easily flip then. So, and I do agree, if it doesn't happen this week and both teams win next week, I do think USC would jump next week, but it'll be something to watch for tonight.
Jeremy Wilson, shout out to you saying Sam needs to do some shots if people send in super chats. So a $2 super chat from Jeremy Wilson. Sam, thoughts?
We kind of putting us on the spot here. We didn't really have a super chat menu ready. I've got a few plans later tonight, but I could go for a little bit.
Pregame?
Why don't we do every
$20? Take a shot, just total?
Sure. Yeah, every 20 total. I'll do
every
a shot.
$20 total.
Right,
so if 10 of you guys send in $2, that's a shot. We're already at $2 from Jeremy Wilson.
I am thirsty.
Hey, he's ready to go. Blame the bosses because we have to turn on sub-only chat. Too many World Cup fans in the chat. We're trying to keep this college football only. So sub-only chat is being activated, and if you want a shout-out before
the committee releases their rankings, just type me. Then Will and I will get you some shout-outs. I'll let Will get some shout-outs first as another $2 super chat comes in. We only need 8 more of those. 8 more of those $2, and Sammy Schatz is going to be ready to go. So type me, and Will's going to get some shout-outs here.
Yeah, Jeremy Wilson, KAD, Real Louisiana. Well, you love to see it, man. John, Damian Perky, Keegan Thacker. We got Big Bag Smith, Josh McBride, Darius Osborne, The King, Evan Henders, Jermel. Another $2 super chat coming in here.
Here they come.
Let's go to I. Miller, $2 super chat.
Ryan Day steals all the napkins from McDonald's. That's pretty fun. It's officially rivalry week, Will.
Oh, yeah.
The petty jokes start to come out, and then shout out Bare Knuckle Outdoors for a 2 as well. More shout outs here. Forrest says me. GSM says me. Jermel says me. E-Bag says fart. Georgia Bulldog says me. Taylor says me. Forrest Bro says me. All Top Guy says me. We got Chua Lore. Let's Go Dogs from Joe. We got Forrest Bros in the chat. Drew Thompson, Ice, Maury as well. As we await for the committee to release their rankings, let's go to the college football playoff map and just kind of explore where we sit. Barring the biggest chaos we've ever seen, Will, I think there's 7 teams left for 4 spots. I think you got the same 4 who control their own destiny, which is a simple definition, right? You win out, you're in the college football playoff. That's true for Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and TCU. In Georgia's case, they probably only need to win one more time. So they're almost a lock at this point. LSU, USC on the bubble. You know, the committee potentially may have to choose between those 2 for that 4th spot, depending on what happens with the top 4. Right now, obviously, Ohio State, Michigan play each other this week. That could be an elimination game. And then I think Clemson's a long shot, but they are still alive if they get chaos. Say USC loses, say TCU loses twice. Those could be some scenarios. We'll explore some of those in a minute, but the committee is releasing their rankings randomly. Wow. Louisville at 7-4. Welcome to the top 25. They are number 25. Could that help out Clemson? It could. Cincinnati at 9-2. At 24, we got Texas at number 23 at 7-4. UCF at number 22, somehow only dropping 2 spots. And then Oregon State moves up to number 21 at 8-3.
How can you rank Louisville over Coastal?
Or South Carolina, who just beat Tennessee by 30 points. I think this means South Carolina is not going to be ranked. Maybe they jump up in the top 20 from unranked, but I doubt it. So no Coastal Carolina again, but there's 25 through 21. Louisville, Cincinnati, Texas, UCF, and Oregon State. Texas jumping in there, by the way, Will, gets TCU another ranked win. So that is potentially impactful as we get down the stretch here. So we'll see what the top 20 looks like as the committee is sipping on their margaritas over there in Grapevine, taking their sweet old time to reveal their rankings here. Where's Coastal, man?
That's
Come on.
ridiculous.
Louisville?
That is ridiculous.
The ACC stinks.
It's crazy.
All right, at number 20, the Ole Miss Rebels. Tulane at 19, back in the driver's seat for the group of 5. UCLA drops a couple spots to 18. How about North Carolina only falling to 17 after losing to Georgia Tech at home? And then Florida State up to number 16. So already 3 ranked ACC teams with Louisville, North Carolina, and Florida State. So
both pretty well for Clemson.
That helps Clemson. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So that's it. And LSU with Florida State keeps winning. That loss looks better and better by the day, especially considering it was all the way back in week 1.
Right, and that loss was because of a missed extra point. So
yep.
I don't think the committee's going to be thinking about that aspect of the loss too much. But you're right, Florida State, them kind of turning their season around, a couple straight wins for the Seminoles. They're all the way up to 16.
And I'm thinking with an extra ACC team in the top 25, I do think Clemson gets up to 7 now.
I would agree.
I do think that'll happen now. At number 15, Notre Dame, plus their 1 losses to Notre Dame. It was a blowout, but Notre Dame keeps winning. They're at number 15. Utah at 14. We nailed 11 through 15 here, Will. Washington at number 13. Kansas State at 12. Penn State at 11. That was our exact mock CFP ranking. So little pat on the back to us,
there
Will.
We go.
We put our heads together and got this done.
That list looks familiar.
Yeah, that list looks familiar. So K-State remains as the highest 3-loss team. So they've got that going. And then Washington, I like Washington better than Penn State personally, but they're moving up to 13. And there is a scenario still where Washington can play for the Pac-12 championship. They need some help, but if they win against Washington State in the Apple Cup, and I think they need Oregon to lose again, which they could to Oregon State, who's a solid team this year. So Washington still has a path to the Pac-12 championship game and potentially a Rose Bowl bid. So that would be talk about a great first year for Kalen DeBoer taking over that job after leaving Fresno State.
Yeah, not an easy position that he went into either. With the way that program was trending, and yeah, he's done a great job. They're right back in the mix here.
Kind of cycling through 15 or 11 through 25 here before we get to the all-important top 10 as the College Football Playoff Committee continues to unveil their rankings. I would say the biggest surprise so far is clearly Louisville.
Yeah,
I mean,
I did not see that
they weren't
coming.
even on my radar when I did my mock rankings. I thought one or two 4-loss teams, Texas, South Carolina, could get in there, but a 4-loss ACC team, that's a stunner because I think the ACC is pretty weak this year.
Well, ACC's terrible.
Yeah. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel as we await for the top 10. We're going live every week to unveil the CFP rankings. Coaching hot boards, more news and rumors. The coaching carousel going to heat up a little bit here. Transfer portal opens up after Championship Saturday, so a lot of coverage on that front as well. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. They did it, Will. They're going to rank Alabama ahead of Tennessee.
That is crazy.
Tennessee comes in at number 10. I guess they're going to say, well, with Hendon Hooker no longer healthy, Bama's the better team. It's like
that's crazy.
They played each other. Tennessee beat Alabama. That happened. And they beat LSU by 30, who Bama lost to. That is criminal to rank Tennessee.
Well, what a shock. Another year of the committee over-ranking Alabama.
Makes no sense. Now, does it matter a ton in the grand scheme of things? No, because neither team's making the CFP, but the process matters. The process matters. And the way they rank these teams, it shares insight to what they could do on the final Sunday.
So Tennessee's ranked number 1 in the first college football playoff ranking. Now they're all the way down to 10.
And they play Vanderbilt this week, who all of a sudden
they're not bad.
looks okay. So we'll see. Oregon all the way up to number 9, and they've got Oregon State this week in a potential Pac-12 championship. I don't think there's a path to the top 4, but they could finish in the top 5 or 6 potentially if they win their final couple games here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think Oregon could beat USC in the Pac-12 title.
Oh, I absolutely
depending
agree.
on Bo Nix's health. His ankle's banged up, but they were able to beat Utah over the weekend, and that bodes well for the Ducks in their chances if they face USC. Got to get to the Oregon State rivalry game first. I think this is a big one coming up, Will. Is it Alabama or Clemson?
It's going to be Bama. It's got to be Bama. Bama doesn't really have much of a resume here.
Are they going to put Bama at 7 just to kind of leave that, if they get chaos, they could just slide in there?
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
They're going to do it. This is why the SEC keeps scheduling FCS opponents in Week 12, because they don't get punished for it. This committee lets them get away with highway robbery. Clemson comes in.
Done?
Clemson comes in at number 8, Bama number 7. It makes no sense.
What have they done to warrant a top 7 ranking?
They've lost.
They beat Austin freaking P.
Their best win is Ole Miss on the road by 6. That is their best win. That makes no sense.
What has Bama done to warrant being in the top 7, ahead of Oregon, ahead of Tennessee, a team they lost to? I am stunned.
I'm not. I wish I was. We've seen this, Will.
What's that mean? Our expectations were you for low, but holy F, that is the reaction.
Cole Knight says Alabama is better. He also says, roll tide, gal, suck it. You're not getting into the playoffs, so have fun with your number 7 ranking, but the preferential treatment that this program gets is a joke. Their resume doesn't stack up. Who's the most overrated top 25 team? I'm saying it's Alabama.
Alabama by a mile.
Wow.
Yep, you're
unbelievable.
number 7.
There they are at number 7. What if they were 6?
There's
no way. There's no way. GSM says, Bama. I agree with you guys. We can't just be like, well, it's Bama. They're just better. Well, the games on the field happened, and they matter, and they've lost 2 of them. Like, what are we doing here?
Bama, you can make an argument they should be at number 10.
They should be below Tennessee and Clemson.
They should definitely be below Tennessee.
Oh, yeah, they play. The fact that there's a 3-team gap between Bama and Tennessee is insane. Who has Clemson played? Clemson hasn't had as hard of a schedule, but they have one less loss, and they're going to a conference title game. Like, Alabama should not be number 7, guys. Doesn't make any sense. Oregon is the most overrated
team. It's just typical for this committee.
It's par for the course. Y'all is garbage. Cole Knight, you are welcome to leave this show, my friend. Florida says Tennessee should be higher. And again, Tennessee and Bama aren't making the CFP. It's just a process, though. Like, it doesn't make any sense to have Bama ranked where they are. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. Hit that sub button. We're waiting for the top 6 to be revealed here at College Football Now. Once the committee reveals it to us, we will reveal it to you. So subscribe, hang with us. We will react to the top 6. And, Will, who's going to be 5 and 6? Is it going to be LSU 5 or USC? I think LSU might be 5 now. I'm
sticking with what I said before the show.
With how they just treated Alabama playing Austin Peay. Hell, at least UAB is a group of 5 team. At least they're FBS. They might keep LSU at number 5.
I do believe they're going to keep LSU above USC. Of course, LSU was number 6 last week. Tennessee lost. I told you, Graham. I'm just going off what the committee has done in past years.
I don't get this Bama shit, man. It doesn't make sense. USC 6 from Dragon. We got Bama says y'all showed. Well, yeah, all Bama fans are mad at us. Be mad at your team for losing 2 games this year. Like, we're just reacting to what we've seen this year.
Without Quinn Ewers by 1 point.
By 1 point.
And they beat Texas A&M
by 4
on
points.
The final play.
And they're the worst A&M team in 30 years. Like,
A&M is the worst team in the SEC this year by a mile.
Yeah, that's
just a fact.
They are.
Vandy's actually better than A&M right now.
They have a better conference record.
Yeah.
Alabama. See, William, we're not saying Bama sucks. We're just saying they shouldn't be number 7. They should be about number 10.
All right, here we go.
Here we go. Top 6 coming at you. They're going to reveal it. Number 1 first. I think they're going to go 1 through 4, then we'll see the 5-6
I saw a red team.
debate.
I thought they were going to put a red team at 6. I got a little bit excited
Georgia
for a second.
holding serve. They are going to be number 1 for, the 3rd straight week now ever since they beat Tennessee. So Georgia's number 1. Ohio State is number 2. I think this top 4 holds here, Will. For now, we got Georgia 1, Ohio State 2. We'll see what 3 through 6 looks like. And again, LSU, USC, the big debate tonight, who gets that 5th spot. Georgia 1, Ohio State 2. Probably Michigan, and yes, it is. The Michigan Wolverines at number 3. We suspect TCU will be 4. What if they put USC at 4?
What if they put LSU to boost Bama?
TCU is number 4. TCU is number 4. And now we await. Who will be 5? Will it be LSU or USC? Type LSU or USC. Who's going to be number 5?
It's going to be LSU.
Let us know.
Who
LSU. Will be number 5. If they put USC 5, then the Bama thing makes even less sense, if we're being honest.
Right.
It's all over the place. Not Coleman says LSU. It is LSU. It is LSU at number 5. Oh, my goodness. USC at number 6. The SEC bias continues from this committee.
I told you, Graham. I told you.
You called it. Wow.
Look, when you look at what the committee has done year after year, they love the SEC. They love the SEC, and they love strength of schedule. LSU's SEC. LSU has the better strength of schedule. I'm not surprised. Now, again, this might change after next week. LSU plays.
I do think I will say this. While I think you could have gone the other way here, if USC beats Notre Dame this week, they're jumping LSU because LSU plays A&M next week. USC with another ranked win next week will jump, which then will get us to the final week. USC against a number 10-ish ranked Oregon, and then LSU against number 1 Georgia.
Right.
And, I think LSU holding on for one more week could be significant for that final week scenario if it plays out that way. So grade the committee's rankings tonight. I'm going to go – I'll go C-. It can't be a failing grade because the top 4 is correct. The top 4 is correct, but I think LSU and Bama are both too high. So I can't go higher than a C type
Bama's
of grade.
Definitely too high.
Yes.
Bama should not be ranked ahead of Tennessee. I don't think it's a hot take to say USC should be ranked ahead of LSU, but I also do not think that is
it's
the most
closer.
Egregious.
It is closer. I will give you that.
It's not egregious.
It's not egregious, but I think there was a strong argument to rank USC higher this week, beating a ranked team on the road, while the SEC as a whole, outside of a couple teams, played FCS schools and Group of 5 schools in Week 12. I think it was an opportunity, and they have this chance every year, the committee, to punish the SEC for this type of scheduling, and they get away with it every single year. So why would you change if you're the SEC? That's how I would schedule if I was an SEC team. We'll get some shout-outs here. A, B, C, D, or F. Dragon says F. W, Ohio State. The committee guys are clowns. A from Tony. UGA can beat LSU. I mean, of course they can. They probably should beat LSU. They're number one team defending national champs. The question is can LSU beat Georgia? We're going to find out here in 2 weeks. Darius says B. Don't ignore LSU getting blown out at home. That's the thing, too, man. When you compare them in USC, yeah, their schedule and resume stacks up better, but they have an extra loss, and one of their losses was by 30 at home.
No, yeah, that's tough.
I mean, it's a real thing. USC's won losses by 1 point at Utah. I don't know. Evan Smith says D. C- from Jason. Clemson should be 1 spot higher. I actually don't agree. Oh, yeah, they should be at number 7. I forgot that the committee put Bama 7 because it makes no sense. Yeah, so I don't know. It's, we'll see. There's a lot of football to be played.
Louisville being ranked is ridiculous. I feel like Penn State's too high. Not a shock there. They're ranked 11. They're too high. Tennessee's too low. Alabama's way too high. But the big question we had coming into the night,
who would be number 5?
Right, and it's LSU.
It's LSU. So we'll find out how it plays out next week. LSU plays at Texas A&M. USC plays Notre Dame, I believe, at home. I think that game is in Pasadena, so that's what's going to shake out this week. So let's react one more time to the CFP rankings, and then don't go anywhere because a lot of Lane Kiffin to Auburn rumors. So we're going to do a video of Lane Kiffin replacements at Ole Miss if he were to leave, so stick around for that. But here is the CFP rankings for November 22nd. 2 more of these to go next Tuesday, and then the Sunday after that. Top 4 stays the same. Georgia, number 1. Ohio State, Michigan, 2 and 3. They play each other this week in the game. It feels like an elimination game, honestly. TCU at number 4. LSU, number 5. And USC at number 6. 7 through 10. Alabama. Why? We don't know. Clemson at number 8. Oregon at number 9, and then the Tennessee Volunteers fall to number 10. I get they got blown out, but they'd also beat Bama head-to-head. I'm guessing the committee is factoring in the Hendon Hooker injury, but I don't think that's a fair process, to be completely honest with you. They beat Bama head-to-head, and they're 3 spots behind them.
You can't factor, and I'm sure
they've done it in the past.
You can't factor in that injury.
They're saying, well, now that he's hurt, Bama should be ranked higher. I guarantee you that conversation happened.
Well, I'm curious to hear what our friend Boo Corrigan says.
Boo, by the way. His name is Boo Corrigan. I mean, the jokes write themselves. Boo the guy because he stinks. Type Boo in the chat. Clyde continues to say that you and I suck, Will, and I keep telling Clyde that go find another show. The reason you're here is because no one's doing what we're doing. That's the truth. If there was a better opportunity, you'd be watching it, but you're not.
Sick number in your name, bud. I bet you've done it tons of times.
Oh, my God.
Spam Boo in the chat. I'm booing Clyde right now. All right, keep it going here. 11 through 15. Penn State at number 11. Kansas State at number 12. They remain the highest 3-loss team. They face Kansas in the most meaningful Kansas State football game in a while for a couple reasons. One, Kansas is actually decent this year, Will. And with the win, Kansas State's in the Big 12 title game to face TCU. They can also secure a berth if Baylor were to upset Texas this Friday, which is actually a day before the Kansas State game. So Kansas State will know when they take the field if they have to win or not to get to the Big 12 championship game. At number 13 is Washington. They can still play for a Pac-12 championship. Utah at number 14, and then Notre Dame at number 15. Florida State sitting there at 16. North Carolina falls to 17. They got NC State this weekend, and then they'll face Clemson in the ACC championship game. UCLA at number 18. Tulane at number 19. Tulane, the inside track to get the Group of 5 nomination in the New Year's Six. Ole Miss tumbles to 20 after their second straight loss. Oregon State sitting at number 21. The Beavers will face the Ducks, the Oregon Ducks, this weekend in that rivalry game. UCF falls to 22 after a loss. Texas back into the top 25 at number 23. Cincinnati at number 24. And then, not that it matters a ton, but the weirdest one of the night, Will, the Louisville Cardinals, welcome to the top 25, a 4-loss ACC team.
Congrats on beating NC State. I don't know.
Who's on a third-string quarterback
Louisville
now?
lost to Boston College not too long ago.
Dude, that's a good point. Like, how are they ranked?
I don't understand it. They also got destroyed by Syracuse,
who has now lost 5 in a row.
Yeah.
So Louisville, not sure where the committee found. I mean, they're closer to 40 than 25 in my opinion. But hey,
couldn't agree more.
We're not on the committee. Subscribe to the channel for more NFL, NBA, college football videos on a daily basis here. We put out a college football video earlier today. We're also going to take a look at some potential Ole Miss coaching candidates if Lane Kiffin were to leave. So hit that sub button and join us every single day for more sports content. No, looks fine to me. All right, here we go. Ole Miss, if Lane Kiffin leaves, who could replace him in Oxford? Will Scott and I put together 10 candidates, so stay tuned as we break that down. Coming up on College Football Now. He's Will Scott. I'm Harrison Graham. You are watching College Football Now. And on today's show, potential replacements for Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss if he were to leave for Auburn or any other job if something else came up for Kiffin. There's been a lot of rumors. He's shut down those rumors on social media, but it's college football carousel. Well, you know these things can change in a hurry.
I don't know if I would say shut down. He's just kind of playing
He's
along with
trolling.
He's trolling. So we'll see what happens. There was that report from John Sokoloff. I guess that's how you pronounce his name, saying that Lane Kiffin was.
I don't think that's how you pronounce his name.
We're just gonna roll with it.
It's close enough.
That he was going to Auburn, but we'll see what happens. Got the Egg Bowl Thursday.
Let's get through 10 candidates here. At number 10, bring him back, coming home, Hugh Freeze, the head coach at Liberty, who obviously had a good run at Ole Miss, and then he had a little too much fun with some strippers. I don't think this is likely, Will, but we wanted to include him here.
Right. I mean, outside of Lane Kiffin, maybe we haven't seen a coach recently at Ole Miss have that level of success. He had a really good run there. Beat Nick Saban
twice.
Yeah.
Back-to-back years, yep. So we'll see what Hugh's future looks like. I don't think it'll be Ole Miss, but we wanted to include him. At number 9, Dan Lanning. I think he would be a higher candidate on Ole Miss's list. But I think it's a lateral move if you're Dan Lanning. I know there's some Pac-12 concerns about the future, but Oregon is a top 3 Pac-12 program. And when USC leaves, a top 2, if not the best Pac-12 program, versus middle-of-the-pack SEC program stuck in a loaded SEC West. I know Dan Lanning was the Georgia defensive coordinator just last year when Georgia won the national title. But if I'm Lanning, I'm not leaving Eugene for Oxford.
No shot. And the grass is not always greener, right? That's what he said a few weeks ago when he was linked to the Auburn job. And Dan Lanning's done a great job already at Oregon. He's in a really good spot there with already a decent amount of job security. And it's a great job over there on the West Coast, Pacific Northwest. So I would stay at Oregon.
You got that Nike money as well. I think Oregon is a good spot for Lanning. Will Lane Kiffin leave for Ole Miss? That's really the question. Or leave Ole Miss for Auburn, I should say. Type Y for yes. Type in for no. You have a gut feeling on this? You think he leaves?
Before yesterday, I would have said yes, but after the social media activity,
those tweets, he would look pretty fraudulent if he left. But we'll see what happens.
We'll see.
Why, if anyone can get away with it, it's Lane Kiffin. Y for yes or N for no.
He is definitely hopped schools pretty quickly before, Tennessee.
If they throw him a Jimbo Fisher type of contract, I mean, it'd be hard to turn down.
I don't know if anyone's going to offer a Jimbo Fisher type of deal again when you consider what A&M is locked into right now.
Disaster. At number 8, we got Matt Campbell, the Iowa State head coach, who I still like, but I think his stock is definitely down compared to what it was, say, 2 years ago when they won the Fiesta Bowl. They've lost countless one-score games the past 2 seasons. I think their Iowa State has been a better team than their record suggests, but at some point you are what your record says you are. 4-7 this year. I think they went 6-6 last year, so I think he could be a secondary candidate. I don't think he'd be at the top of the list, though.
Yeah, his value's definitely gone down a little bit. He'll still be linked to some jobs that we see come open in the next couple of weeks, but he's not getting the same amount of hype that he was a year or two ago.
Exactly. At number 7, bit of a curveball. How about Cliff Kingsbury? Listen, things are potentially blowing up in Arizona in the NFL for the Cardinals. They just got waxed on Monday Night Football by the 49ers. I get it, no Kyler Murray, but they're 3-7 now. There was offseason drama with, is he going to get a new contract extension? He did. Are they going to sign Kyler Murray? They did, and it's not going well. So could Cliff either get fired or choose to return to the college game? I don't think he would do it choosingly, but if he does get canned, I do think college jobs would be interested, and I think going from Lane Kiffin to Cliff Kingsbury from an offensive philosophy isn't that big of a shift. Now, can he recruit to the same level? Can he get the support staff around him that Lane has? That's a different question, but similar minds, if you will, when it comes to playing offensive football.
Yeah, absolutely, and it'll be interesting to see the interest that he gets if and when he gets fired by the Arizona Cardinals. Could he be an OC in the NFL? Could he be a college head coach, maybe even a college OC? Yep. Keep in mind, after he was fired at Texas Tech, he was hired to be the offensive coordinator at USC.
He failed upward.
Exactly, and then he gets the Arizona Cardinals job. But I think Ole Miss might be a decent fit if he were to go back to college, where he was a losing head coach at Texas Tech. That's worth noting.
At number 6, Garrett Riley. I think this is a name people should familiarize themselves with. The younger brother of Lincoln Riley. He's calling plays for TCU, who's got a top 10 offense this year, really good passing and running offense, balanced. Obviously, TCU's undefeated. I've watched this team all year. He's a good play caller. And he's got the Riley name, Will. Teams are going to be interested in that very, very soon. And, again, similar style of offense that Lane Kiffin would run, not scared to run the football. This is not like a pure air raid. They run the football a lot, plays to his personnel. I don't know if he'd get an SEC head coaching job after 1 year as TCU's play caller, but if they go 13-0, make the CFP, teams might be interested pretty soon.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely going to get some interest here when you're talking about these coaching vacancies. Now, would Ole Miss want to hire an offensive coordinator from a Big 12 school with no head coaching experience?
It's a leap.
Not sure.
It's definitely a leap. Before we get to the top 5, shout out to Established Titles for sponsoring today's episode of College Football Now. And do you want to become a lord or a lady, add that title to your name? Well, you can with Established Titles, as they are a fun and novel way to preserve the natural woodlands of Scotland while helping global reforestation efforts. This project is based on a historic Scottish custom where landowners are referred to as lairds or lords and ladies in English. Title packs give you at least 1 square foot of dedicated land with a unique plot number on a private estate in Eddleston, Scotland, which you can actually go visit, and you'll receive an official certificate with a crest. We plant a tree with every order and work with global charities, One Tree Planted and Trees for the Future, to support those global reforestation efforts. You can officially then add the title of Lord or Lady on your credit card, your plane tickets, your dating profile, social media accounts, etc. It makes for a great last-minute gift this holiday season. The first 200 people purchasing a title pack using our link will effectively be next to me and Will Scott's pile of land, as we have now become lords as well. Your plot would be within walking distance of ours. You want to become a lord or lady? We could start our own chat sports kingdom here in Scotland. It makes for an amazing last-minute gift. Like I mentioned, Established Titles has their holiday sale going on right now with deals up to 80% off, and we're going to throw you an extra 10% off with promo code CHAT. Go to establishedtitles.com/chat. Use the promo code CHAT. Get a good deal. It's a great white elephant gift, by the way, this holiday season. Go check it out. Top 5, Will. How about Jamie Chadwell? Listen, what he's done at Coastal Carolina is one of the more underappreciated things, I think, of the last 4 or 5 years in college football. They're winning 8, 9, 10 games a year. He's developing talent. Regionally, is it the perfect fit? I don't know, but he's surely an up-and-comer that deserves a shot at a Power 5 gig at some point.
I agree. I mean, you look at the last 3 years, 11-1, 11-2, and now they're 9-1. What he's done at Coastal, completely turning that program around. Yeah, he's a winner. I really like him, and we saw Billy Napier make the jump from Sun Belt head coach to SEC head coach when he took the Florida job. It's been done recently.
And the Florida job's a bigger job than Ole Miss, by the way.
Yeah, so it could happen.
So it's not a crazy reach. How about Matt Rule? I think as of today, as we film this, November 29th, November 30th, Matt Rule's probably the favorite to land the Nebraska job. But if Ole Miss opens up or another SEC job like Auburn is interested, I think Matt Rule would entertain that. Now, he's more of a tear it down, build it up type of guy. Like Nebraska makes sense for him because he likes to install his culture, kind of gut the program and start it over. Ole Miss doesn't need gutting. Like if Lane Kiffin leaves, there's sheep in the stables there. Like they've got good players, they got good recruits coming in. It's an SEC program that's been winning 8+ games for a few years now. But we know he's a good college head coach. Will he's going to garner some interest?
Yeah, obviously a lot of people are going to look at this name and be like, I don't want him because he was a disaster with the Carolina Panthers. But he did a great job at Temple, did a great job at Baylor. I think he's going to make a good college head coach once again.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Subscribe to Chat Sports, College Football Playoff Rankings. From here on out, every single week, Will and I go live to react to what the committee does. 2 more of those next Tuesday and then the following Sunday after Championship Saturday. Coaching hot boards like this one are going to heat up as jobs start to open up. And the transfer portal opens soon. Recruiting is heating up with signing day in December. So stick with us, subscribe. Don't miss any of our college football coverage. Let's get to the top 3 here. I think Deion Sanders has to be in the mix for really any of these jobs that open up. He is worth interviewing at the very least. He's a culture changer. He is innovative. I think in a world of NIL, he's someone that makes a lot of sense. And in a new era of college football where players have more say, they can transfer, they can get NIL money, they like players, coaches. That is what Deion is. He's an NFL superstar. He's primetime. Players can relate to this guy, Will. He's going to get one of these jobs eventually. I don't know which one it's going to be, but he's going to get one of them.
I mean, you look at what Jackson State has done. Right now, they're undefeated. One of the highest-ranked FCS programs right now. So he's been fantastic at Jackson State. I think he deserves an FBS opportunity. Now, he has been in talks, apparently, with Colorado and South Florida. If I'm Deion, I'm not taking either of those jobs. I'm waiting for a better job like Ole Miss to come open.
Yeah, I'm waiting for a better job. When I saw that report, I was like, maybe you could talk me into South Florida. That's his home state, but I don't know. I would wait if I was Deion as well. We can go to number 2 here. Luke Fickell, the head coach at Cincinnati. He seems like a Big Ten guy to me, but he would be one of the first guys I would call if I was Ole Miss. He's just like Mr. Steady. You look at him on the sideline, he stays calm. The guy, even in a down year this year, they're 9-2, and they're on the cusp of the New Year's Six. And that's after losing Desmond Ridder, Sauce Gardner, Kobe Bryant, a couple NFL receivers, Alec Pierce, who's balling out with the Colts. Like, they lost a ton of talent, and they're still going to win 10 games this year. Like, he's a hell of a coach. I think he'd rather take a Big Ten job. Like, if Nebraska came calling, that could be more appealing to him, or Wisconsin if they don't go with Jim Leonhard. But if I'm Ole Miss, I would absolutely call Luke Fickell. I mean, the guy's a really good coach, and I think he would fit in well in the SEC.
Yeah, he's fantastic. What he's done with Cincinnati led them to the college football playoff last year, the first group of 5 team to make the college football playoff. I kind of thought he was going to get the Notre Dame job last year when Brian Kelly stepped away, but then Marcus Freeman got promoted either the day after or about a week later or so. So we'll see what happens with Fickell. I don't know if there's a job that's come open yet that makes a lot of sense for him, though.
At number 1, Gus Malzahn. Listen, he wouldn't be my top candidate, but he's coached in the SEC for a long time at Auburn, a similar-ish program to Ole Miss. He runs a fun offense. He knows the SEC. and he's beaten Bama 3 times. And you got to go through Bama to win the SEC West more often than not. So I think he's gettable. I think he's realistic. And I think he'd be a solid candidate. I don't think it would be an A-plus hire, but I think this would be like a solid B-plus. Like, if you lose Lane Kiffin and get Gus Malzahn, I don't think you're like just dreading it if you're Ole Miss. I think you feel pretty good about him as a stabilizer, as he's done pretty solid so far at UCF as well.
And he did solid at Auburn. He had a bunch of
went to a national title game.
Yeah, exactly. Went to a national title game his first year. After that, a lot of 8 and 9 win seasons, which at Auburn, that might not cut it. At Ole Miss, they're going to be happy with winning consistently 8 or 9 games.
Yeah, which is why I've said if I'm Lane, I would just stay put. They're not going to fire him anytime soon. Auburn, you don't get it done in 2 or 3 years, they just proved to us they will fire you. Brian Harsin didn't even get 2 seasons. So, that's where we're at. We'll see what Lane Kiffin does. Those are some candidates that could be in the mix if Lane were to leave, as you look at the top 5 there: Chadwell, Rule, Sanders, Fickle, and Malzahn. Now, who will be the Ole Miss head coach to start next season? It could obviously still be Lane Kiffin. What do you guys think? I'm going to stay Lane Kiffin. Will, I know he's the ultimate, like, you'd never know what he's going to do, but those tweets, you come out and you call out a guy for having bad sources, tweet about the Egg Bowl, and then leave for Auburn, that would be kind of a not great look. But Lincoln Riley left it a shady way last year, so we've certainly seen it. Thoughts?
I think he's staying at Ole Miss.
All right, I think
do.
so
But it's
as
Lane
well.
Kiffin.
You never know. Let us know who you guys think will be Ole Miss's coach to start next year. All right, we'll get some shout-outs, and then we'll take a look at the top 10 before we get out of here one more time, as Sam is triggered after I said Lincoln
Remember
Riley's
Lincoln
name.
last year? I'm not going to be the next football coach at LSU. He was right.
Hey, he didn't lie.
What about Brian Kelly?
He also left in fraudulent manner. He left his team out to dry.
It worked out for Notre Dame and LSU.
Now, I will say this.
I mean, if LSU's ranked higher, then why wasn't Brian Kelly the first name that came to mind? They have the better team.
Yeah, that's right. LSU's better. I like the sound of that.
I think they should, if they can't decide, just have LSU and USC play for the final spot. That's what they should have done in 2014.
Yeah. I've always said a 16 playoff is the best way.
This would be a good group.
Yeah, be a really good group.
Those
are clearly the top 6 teams.
Yeah, at this
clearly.
point, it does feel that way. Kiffin, Lane will stay. Sanders isn't leaving. If Ole Miss offered Deion Sanders the job, I think he would leave Jackson State for Ole Miss. Mm-hmm. An SEC job that's not Vanderbilt or Kentucky, he would take that job. And he has said as much. He said, yeah, if big programs call, I'm going to listen. Like, which I give him a lot of credit for. A lot of coaches are like, yeah, I'm not talking about that. I'm focused on here. He's like, if big jobs call, I'm talking to him. Like, what do you want me to say? Like, I appreciate the honesty from Prime. So we shall see. Someone says USC is losing to Notre Dame on Saturday. Before we I do want to get some thoughts on some of the matchups real quick before we get out of here, but let's take a look at the top 10 one more time. Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Michigan 3, TCU 4 as the top 4 stays the same. LSU 5, USC 6. Quick thoughts, Will. We were looking at that 5-6 spot. LSU for now has the advantage, but LSU plays unranked Texas A&M this week, and USC plays a ranked Notre Dame team. They could certainly jump next week if they win.
Yeah, if USC beats Notre Dame, who right now is a top 15 team, and LSU does not destroy Texas A&M, which they should and they could, then yes, I do believe USC will jump LSU next week, and then we have this really interesting
going into the final week scenario.
Really interesting debate if LSU were to beat Georgia and USC were to win the Pac-12 championship.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. 7 through 10, we're not even going to talk Bama. It makes no sense. They're not getting into the top 4, but still. Clemson at 8, Oregon 9, Tennessee 10. Obviously, out of that grouping, Clemson has a chance. I don't know how good of a chance it is. South Carolina not being ranked did not help, Will, because if they beat them, they certainly won't be ranked next week, so that doesn't help their cause. North Carolina in the ACC title, it'd be a good win, but not a great win. They need significant help. I think they need USC to lose. I think they need LSU to lose to Georgia or A&M. And they might need, a one-loss Michigan or Ohio State could stay ahead of Clemson still, especially if it's Ohio State. Like if Ohio State loses 35-31 to Michigan,
and that's it, and Clemson wins out, Ohio State could get in over Clemson. So Clemson,
Correct.
they not only got to win out, they got to dominate these last 2 games, and they need the right dominoes to fall, and it just feels like it's going to be too much to overcome at 21. Plus, with the Ohio State conversation, Ohio State beat Notre Dame. Clemson lost to Notre Dame, so that common opponent could come into play. So if you're Clemson, I think you're rooting for Ohio State to beat Michigan. You need Michigan to lose that game, I think. I mean, you see where I'm going here
100%.
with this conversation?
Yeah, Clemson not being in the top 7 makes their path extremely difficult.
And a head-to-head combo with Ohio State isn't going to go well for them.
No.
I don't think an ACC championship is going to override.
Hey, keep in mind, Ohio State beat.
I just said that.
Exactly.
And they lost to Notre Dame.
Exactly. That is going to be.
They need Ohio State to beat Michigan. Bad.
Right.
Like, if Ohio State loses, that might eliminate Clemson, honestly. It really could. So that, obviously, the game, Ohio State 7.5-point favorites. Clemson fans, if you're watching, cheer hard for the Buckeyes. You really need them to win because a Michigan scenario, you got a much stronger argument against them. They didn't have the non-conference schedule. Notre Dame at USC. 5.5-point favorites. Not a huge spread here, Will, considering it's at USC. I think Notre Dame's got a real shot here. Their defense, I think, can contain Caleb Williams a little bit. They're not going to shut him down to like 20 points, but I think 30 is the number for you for Notre Dame. Can you keep USC under 30 points? If you can, going up against that garbage USC defense, it's probably enough to win.
I would agree.
I think 30 is the number here.
Notre Dame, man, give Marcus Freeman a lot of credit for turning their season around. They lost to Marshall. They lost to Stanford. Against every other team, they only have 1 loss. So, and that's to Ohio State.
Yeah.
So you got to give them a lot of credit for turning things back around.
Right in the ship. I mean, people early on were like, should they just fire Freeman and start this thing over? And you got to give these guys time. There's no doubt. Follow Will and I on Twitter. We're very passionate college football fans. We also cover the NFL here at Chat Sports. I'm at HGram NFL. He's at Will Scott 44. Be sure to give us a follow, and of course we will be back next week as well. I'm just looking at the slate if there's any other super meaningful games. I mean, those are Tulane Cincinnati for you Group of 5 fans. The winner of that game could be in the driver's seat for the final or for the G5 spot. So keep an eye on that. Teams in the top 4: TCU at home against Iowa State. Don't sleep on Iowa State, but TCU should handle them. Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's a joke. That game's in Athens. Georgia will win that game. And then, obviously, circling back to Michigan-Ohio State, that's the game. Texas-Baylor. If Texas wins and Kansas State loses, Texas could get to the Big 12 title game, and Kansas State plays Kansas as well. I think that kind of covers the important games this week. There's the top 6 from the committee tonight. We'll see how it looks next week. Will, any final thoughts here? Do you have a bold prediction this week? You called South Carolina over Tennessee. Are you holding off? No bold prediction?
Let me look at the slate here.
I can read them off to you, some notable ones, impactful ones.
I think South Carolina gives Clemson all they can handle. But I think Clemson wins that game.
It's at Clemson. They've won 40 in a row.
I think South Carolina will cover.
Here's a hot take.
Believe that.
I'm not calling it. I think Auburn gives Bama a game.
I agree. Cadillac's
got them playing.
Yeah.
Bama doesn't blow anyone out. I mean, even Austin Peay, 34-0. A normal Bama team would beat that team by 60. It's in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
We saw last year, though. Auburn should have beat Alabama last year at Auburn. I think that's a less than 10-point game. I think Auburn will show up and play in that game. So
I'm seeing a lot of chalk this week. I really am.
Yeah. This could be the most anticipatory.
Maybe Washington State over Washington. Maybe.
I
could see that happening.
I don't see it.
I could also
I could see Kansas beating Kansas State.
What are your thoughts on Oregon State?
I could see Oregon State winning.
Yeah.
It's at Oregon State. Oregon State's good, dude. Their coach, Jonathan Smith, coaching carousel guys. Remember the name Jonathan Smith. I know Oregon State's his alma mater.
Yeah,
he's a hell of a coach, man. Like, if big jobs open up and want him, he could be on the move. So, all right, kind of rambling here at the end, but thanks to producer Sam Brown. Will, appreciate it as always. I'm Harrison Graham. We will see you guys next week. Thank you to Brett Scott as well. Another slate of games. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. We'll see you guys soon.